Welcome to the 101 most anticipated movies of 2026 here on the Intercut podcast channel. I am your co-host Zachary Shevich, and joining me, call him Jennifer Love Hewitt because he can't hardly wait. It's Ewan Graff. What's going on, buddy? Thanks for joining me back on the podcast.
Sorry, you just flabbergasted me with that introduction. I'm blushing. Thank you so much.
That's my goal. That's my goal. I just want to get you red in the face.
It is pretty true. I can't hardly wait. I mean, the amount of films that both of us have on our watch lists is, well, it's quite something.
It's pretty overwhelming. And if the 101 movies that I'm planning on bringing up on this podcast isn't enough, our good friend Ewan at the Quiet on Set podcast has also got a bunch of anticipated movies that they've talked about over there. So be sure to check out that video as well after you check out this one. Auteur and Amanda are busy buying long underwear for our upcoming trip back to Park City for the Sundance Film Festival. So they weren't able to join us for this one, but make sure you're following along with our podcast as well as our social media for our updates out of Sundance throughout that festival. You can also check out the Sundance preview we posted not too long ago. But enough with the Sundance movies. We're talking about wide release movies. We're talking about everything that is potentially on the slate for 2026 because 2025 is over. We've done our best of the year. We've talked about all that stuff. We're still in the thick of award season, but I'm bored of these movies. We got to move on. We need some fresh blood. We need some new art coming in. There's so much on the horizon to get excited about. The best thing about anticipating new movies is that we haven't been disappointed by these titles yet. Ewan, I was wondering, before we started, what do you think is the movie you anticipated the most in your lifetime? Not just this year, but what was the movie that you just could not wait to see? And is it embarrassing that my answer to that question is probably Garden State?
that is a random, such a random movie.
It's a movie that is the title of the state I live in, made by a guy who shares my first name, and I was a Scrubs fan at the time. But that I think my anticipation now doesn't really compare to 13-year-old burgeoning film fan Zach. But do you have a less embarrassing answer than that one?
I honestly am like, that's a pretty hard question. I feel like you could fill like a whole podcast episode just like talking about the movies that you were most anticipating in your life, but it would tell you a lot about yourself. I think for me, it's like, you know what? I was at that Gun Film Festival in 2022, I believe it was, when After Sun came out, and Cole from the Expert was there, and he like texted me like the great movie After Sun, you gotta see it, and all the screenings were gone, and I knew it was like so for me that I could not wait for the movie it is. I guess it's one of my favorite movies of all time, so like that kind of fits. But I was looking forward to After Sun a lot, but I feel like there's a more embarrassing answer if I look back more into my childhood probably, but that's been locked off somewhere.
Yeah, I'll let you marinate on it a little bit while we go through the 2026 movies, because in a little bit, we are going to talk about the most anticipated movies of the next calendar year. But first, make sure you subscribe to the Intercut podcast, either the audio podcast, which is available on most podcatchers, or the video podcast, which you might be watching right now on youtube.com/intercutpod. We're also available on video on Spotify. But you can follow us across social media as well, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram. We are at IntercutPod. That's at IntercutPod, and that is short for podcast. You can also support the show for as little as $3 a month here on YouTube by clicking the join button on our page to become a member, or going to patreon.com/IntercutPod and joining the Intercuties, my homies, where you get early access to episodes like this one, the ability to help us decide future episodes of the show. I was consulting the Intercuties on what movies should be on this list, so shout out to some of them, especially Max, for their help with that. And you also get an invitation to our monthly Intercutie video chats where we hang out and talk about the latest in film. You can use the code Intercutie on Patreon for up to 50% off your first month now through the end of the Sundance Film Festival. Also, be sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, because if we get to 250 5-star reviews on Apple, we'll make a list of our 101 most anticipated 5-star reviews next.
That sounds intriguing. I'd get that.
Okay, before we get things started, I have a quick disclaimer. There are several movies that we are not talking about on this episode, and that's because, as far as I know, they're not coming out until next year, in my expert capacity as a guy sitting in front of a laptop. So those movies that I don't want to get too much into, because I'm worried that they won't actually come out next year, are the Untitled Trey Parker, Matt Stone, Kendrick Lamar comedy. I had this on last year's most anticipated video. It had a release date earlier this year, or sorry, in July of this year, I believe. That got pushed again. This movie has sort of just been like ruminating for a long time, but it feels like it might never come out. I don't know. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed that we'll see it. There's also The Adventures of Cliff Booth, which is the new David Fincher film written by Quentin Tarantino, starring Brad Pitt as his character from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This one is underway, like filming has gotten going, but if this movie comes out in the summer, as Netflix says it would mean that the movie would spend less than 9 months in post-production, which seems unlikely for a David Fincher movie to me. Maybe it's something else. I don't know if you saw, there was a picture going around that Quentin Tarantino is credited with writing the teleplay rather than the screenplay. So Netflix is treating this as like a TV movie, not a movie.
So he could still direct it and it wouldn't count. So he could take it back.
Exactly. he could renege on that offer. I still think he needs to switch it up and just admit he can direct more than 10 movies. But anyway, I don't think we're getting the Adventures of Cliff Booth this year. Maybe I'll be wrong. Another movie I don't think we're getting this year is the next Untitled Jordan Peele film. This was originally on the calendar for, I believe, Christmas 2026. Universal took it off the calendar, which I know we're both not happy about, but whenever Jordan Peele is ready with his next movie, we'll be excited for it. I don't know if we're going to get the Untitled Jesse Eisenberg musical comedy this year. Something about it makes me feel like they're gonna hold it for next year. Maybe I'm wrong. It's A24. It's got a good cast. Was this one of the ones you were anticipating this year?
Yeah, I guess it kind of just makes sense for them to wait. Maybe drop this at Sundance or South by Southwest next year. Yeah, it would be a good place for it. Didn't A Real Pain also premiere there?
Both A Real Pain and When You Finish Saving the World, his last two movies were Sundance premieres. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if he's going to go 3 for 3, but it's sometimes these movies, I feel like people anticipate they'll spend less time in post-production than they will. And I'm not sure if that one started shooting yet. There's plenty of other films that are exciting, but haven't yet been dated, like Reed Morano's The Memory Police with Lily Gladstone. There's the Untitled Joni Mitchell biopic from Cameron Crowe with Anya Taylor-Joy. Terrence Malick's The Way of the Wind, his dramatization of the life of Christ. This is a movie that I think has been...
It's going to be a con this year.
You think it's going to be a con?
No.
Or do you know for sure?
No. I don't know. But, it's been rumored to be a con for the last 3 years or so.
At least, right? I think he shot this in like 2022, 2021, something like that. So
yeah.
Who knows if we'll get that one? Who knows if we're going to get Fast X Part 2? Who knows when we're getting more Fast and Furious movies? Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse was at one point slated to be a 2026 movie. I think that's coming out 2027. Heat 2, the long-awaited sequel from Michael Mann, which has just about every famous man in Hollywood attached to play a role in it. I think Leonardo DiCaprio is confirmed now. Austin Butler has been rumored for a while, as has Adam Driver. So we'll see when that movie gets made. I don't think it'll get released this year. And then one more is the next film from Joe Swanberg, who hasn't directed a movie in a few years. He's been busy renting DVDs out of his van in Chicago, but he's at work on a new film with Dakota Fanning, Jake Johnson, and Corey Michael Smith called The Sun Never Sets, set in Alaska, of all places. So definitely curious to see what Joe Swanberg has cooking. But those are not the movies that we're talking about. Those are just the movies that we're throwing in as extra. We're giving you more than you need on this podcast. Art, I'm sorry, I'm so used to throwing to Art. Ewan, I didn't change my notes. Ewan, should we get into the actual 101 most anticipated?
Let's get straight to it.
All right, cool. These are movies that somebody on the Intercut crew has seen already. I haven't seen them all. I'm not sure if you've seen them all, but let's talk about just some of the stuff we've already seen. Pillion, which is a really fun, sweet, and surprising gay BDSM rom-com between Harry Melling and Alexander Skarsgård. This one was a big hit at a few film festivals, played Cannes last year, played Telluride, as well as the New York Film Festival, where I was able to catch up with it. Really, really enjoyed this one. Some of the best work I've seen from Harry Melling or Alexander Skarsgård, so I'm very excited for people to catch up with Pillion. Obsession is a movie that I didn't see, but just about everybody else in the Intercut crew caught it at TIFF last year and really loved it. It's from YouTuber Curry Barker. And it is a film about a guy who makes a wish that his crush will become obsessed with him, which has dark consequences. Focus Features picked this one up for the biggest money out of TIFF last year and has dated it for May 15th. There's already a trailer out, although people I know who've seen it say to stay away from the trailer. Also dated for May 15th is Poetic License, the new film from Maud Apatow, her directorial debut, featuring Andrew Barth Feldman and Cooper Hoffman as a pair of college kids coming into their own. It feels really spiritually in line with her father's movies, but also very Gen Z in a way that Judd probably could never pull off. There is Mile End Kicks, which is the new film from Chandler Levac, who directed I Like Movies. I saw this one at TIFF. It follows a music critic finding her voice and looking for love in Montreal's indie music scene, starring Barbie Ferreira. It feels in a lot of ways like a spiritual sequel to Almost Famous. So a lot of people will surely vibe with that feeling in the movie. Tuner is another one that has done some of the festival rounds from Telluride and Toronto, played Zurich as well. I don't know if you got a chance to catch it there.
Yeah, I did see it in Zurich.
Do you like Tuner?
I like it quite a bit. Yeah, I'm really surprised some of the responses for that one were like up and down, but I really had a good time with Tuner.
Same. I thought it was just a really solid movie about a guy who has hearing addition instead of hearing loss, and then he gets roped into using his skills to crack safes. Really fun time. As was Bad Apples, which I saw at TIFF last year, a new film in which Saoirse Ronan plays a teacher who has to make difficult decisions when one bad student is disrupting her class in a deliciously dark comedy. I don't think that one has a release date. It might not even have a distributor. The Christophers is the latest film from Steven Soderbergh, featuring Michaela Cole as an artist who gets hired to work as an assistant to a legendary artist played by Ian McKellen, while secretly planning to finish and help sell his legendarily uncompleted works. It's also got a screenplay from Ed Solomon, a frequent collaborator of Soderbergh's. Beyond that, we have Wasteman, a film which stars Tom Blythe and David Johnson as cellmates trying to survive a high-security prison. Two more. The Rivals of Amziah King, in which Matthew McConaughey plays a bee farmer who tries to track down stolen honey in between meeting with friends to play catchy folk music. This one just got dated for August. I'm really excited for this one. This was one of our favorite movies we caught at South by Southwest last year. But our favorite movie we caught at South by Southwest last year was Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. The latest from Matt Johnson and his gang hits theaters on February 13th in this story of Matt and Jay launching a desperate attempt to play a show at the Rivoli. Ewan, of all the movies that we've already seen in 2025, which one are you looking forward to the most in 2026, or should the Intercut audience be most anticipating next year?
Well, I think I've also seen Pillion, and I think that one is just such a blast, especially in a theater, hopefully a pretty full theater. I got to see it in Cannes, and it was like everyone was just having a great time. So I hope people can see it, actually on the big screen. I was a bit surprised that Rivals of Amziah King did not get released at some point last year. So I'm really happy that it's at least is dated. That's very high up for me. Nirvana the band. Nirvana
the band
show the movie. The sequel, the musical, straight to Disney Plus. I'm looking forward to that one quite a bit. And a Wasteman also sounds intriguing. A lot of the stuff that I guess only played at TIFF, I didn't get to see at any other like European film festivals. So pretty much all of that is like on my radar. But yeah, Rivals and Nirvana is probably at the top of that list.
Yeah, I mean, those were two of the best movies I saw all of last year, so they'll probably be two of the best movies I see all of this year. Definitely excited to catch them both again, even though I've seen Nirvana like 3 times already. I'm down for round 4. Speaking of film festivals, we are headed out to Sundance pretty shortly, and South by Southwest is just around the corner, having already announced their lineup. We did a whole video, as I mentioned earlier, previewing Sundance, so if you want to see us dive more deeply into that lineup, you can check that out. But a few of the titles that we're most excited to catch out of that festival include Gail, Daughtry, and the Celebrity Sex Pass. This is the latest film from David Wayne, director of Wet Hot American Summer. They came together and role models. It's co-written by Ken Marino, who's also a hilarious actor in his own right, and has a great cast in it with Zoe Deutsch, John Slattery, Richard Kind, Tom Slennon, and John Hamm. A story about a couple who have a celebrity hall pass agreement and decide to use it. I'm anticipating a really funny time. Really excited for that one. Also excited to check out the latest from director Kathy Yan, The Gallerist, about a desperate gallerist trying to sell a dead body at Art Basel in Miami. This one has Natalie Portman, Jenna Ortega, Divine Joy Randolph, Sterling K. Brown, and Zach Galifianakis, as well as Catherine Zeta-Jones, Daniel Bruhl, Charlie XCX. Kathy Yan, I don't think we've got a movie from her since she made Birds of Prey a few years ago, but a really talented director, and it has a really fun cast assembled for that movie. There's The Invite, which is the latest from Olivia Wilde about a couple who are on thin ice, who are hosting their upstairs neighbors for dinner. Aside from Olivia Wilde, the cast has Seth Rogen, Penelope Cruz, and Edward Norton. Pretty excited for that one. Wicker is a new film about an outcast in a fishing village who commissions a husband for herself made out of wicker. It almost sounds like a mid-millennia set version of Lars and the Real Girl. This one's going to star Olivia Colman as well as Alexander Skarsgård, who gets his second mention on the most anticipated list. And then maybe my most excited for Sundance is The History of Concrete, a new documentary from none other than John Wilson about him trying to write and sell a Hallmark movie based on concrete. So a bunch of exciting films from Sundance, but the South by lineup is exciting as well. See You When I See You, which will be at both festivals, is the latest film from Jay Duplass after he returned to directing with last year's The Baltimoreans, a really excellent film. This is also going to be a film with Cooper Raiff in the lead role, which will be interesting to see him working as an actor in a film in which he isn't the writer. From South by, I'm also excited to check out Pizza Movie, the directorial debut from Nick Kocher and Brian McElhaney. You may be familiar with their work on YouTube as Britannic. They have posted sketches there for years. They've worked on SNL. I think they did Punch Up for the MCU at some point because they were in with Joss Whedon. This is a film about some college undergrads who order a takeout pie but accidentally end up on a journey after tripping on homemade drugs, starring Gaten Matarazzo in his first big role post Stranger Things. Power Ballad is the latest film from John Carney, the director of movies like Sing Street and Once. This one is about a wedding singer and a flagging pop star who come together, starring Paul Rudd and Nick Jonas. If you're a person who likes that style of musical movie, I think John Carney has made a name on those types of films. He'll be back with another. And then the opening night film for South by Southwest is I Love Boosters, the new film from Boots Riley, his first feature since he made Sorry to Bother You, I think 8 years ago already. This one's got another stacked cast with people like Keke Palmer, Taylor Page, Lakeith Stanfield, Demi Moore, Don Cheadle, Isa Gonzalez, Will Poulter. The names just go on and on and on. Ewan, from that festival selection, what film stands out to you the most?
Well, I think on my when we did our most anticipated for Quiet on Set, I did have Power Ballad in like spot number 7 or something like that. So it was really high up, just because like John Carney, John Carney has just been so consistent with his films that I feel like he'll just like deliver what I enjoy about his films yet again. So that's very high up for me. Also very much looking forward to I Love Boosters. It's been too long since we've gotten anything new from Boots Riley.
Yeah, I think Sorry to Bother You is like one of the best comedies we've had in the last, decade plus. And he made that really excellent Amazon Prime show, I'm a Virgo, but there is something different about making a movie, right? And I Love Boosters will be hopefully a nice step up for him too, for now that he's established himself in the film world.
Exactly. And I'm also so looking forward to History of Concrete. It just sounds so perfect. It like feels like it's going to be right up my alley as well. And then because I can already picture exactly like Olivia Colman in the whole movie, I'm also looking forward to Wicker. It just that pairing to me is like perfect, especially also with Alexander Skarsgård as like hopefully a better scarecrow-like thing than we got in Wicked for Good. A bit more practical because we do want to see more of Alexander Skarsgård. Like I'm looking forward to all of these.
Yeah, I feel like Olivia Colman in particular is one of the best actors you could recruit for playing a weirdo who you're not quite sure how much sanity they have. Like she can ride that dramatic comedic line so well, whether you ask her to do something hilarious or something really dramatic and emotional. She's the right person for that job.
I mean, I would be lying if I don't mention, almost on the Oscar, maybe international feature list, Petra Volpe, a fellow Swiss filmmaker here who has a movie called Frank and Lewis out with Kingsley Ben-Adir that I'm very much looking forward to as well.
Yeah, Arturo spotlighted that when we did our Sundance preview as the movie he thinks has the best chance to make it from Sundance all the way to the Oscars in 2027. So another one from Sundance that
might be coming up later on. Then I'm taking something away. If you
no, I have you threw in a 100-second movie, so I'm glad to mention that one as well. Right, beyond the festival picks, which hopefully will make their way to theaters in 2026. There are some blockbusters on the horizon, which we know will be a big deal next year. I think the one that I'm looking forward to the most amongst them is Project Hail Mary. It's the return of Phil Lord and Chris Miller to the director's chair, the voices behind the Spider-Verse movies, as well as the Jonah Hill, Channing Tatum Jump Street films, who at one point were attached to Solo, although I don't think they ultimately received final directing credit for that movie. This one is based on a bestseller, which I actually read and think is fantastic. It's got a really great, fun role for Ryan Gosling at its center, playing an astronaut trying to save the Earth after the sun contracts a mysterious disease. Project Hail Mary comes out on March 20th. On May 22nd, we're getting The Mandalorian and Grogu. The TV hit jumps to the big screen. Ewan, are you up to date on your Mandalorian lore? I dropped out sometime in season 2.
I got a disease up here, which just glues me to my screen at all times. So I am up to date with all of Star Wars, not because I particularly love it, but just because I like to keep up. So I'm up to date. I'm really curious about like how well this is gonna do, because it's like, are people gonna make that jump if they're not caught up, or do you feel like they need to catch up?
Yeah, it feels weird to be speculating on whether or not a Star Wars movie will do well in movie theaters, but such is the state of the franchise right now. We'll be really curious to see. Steven Spielberg returns to movie theaters on June 12th with Disclosure Day. It's Spielberg's return to big science fiction spectacle. Kind of looks like he's in War of the Worlds mode if you have seen the trailers. I'm excited for this one with Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, Coleman Domingo, and more. The DCU also is back on the big screen next year with Supergirl, directed by Craig Gillespie, although if you watch the trailer, you might feel the presence of James Gunn. It's Millie Alcock's time to shine in the lead role. Really curious to see how this one ends up, because I really dug James Gunn's Superman. I don't know how you ended up feeling about it. This one is out on June 26th.
Yeah, I mean, of the superhero movies last year, I believe that was probably my favorite. Not that it was particularly great year for superhero filmmaking and all that, but I liked it quite a bit.
Same. On July 17th, Christopher Nolan takes us to the epic, The Odyssey, one of the most legendary tales of all time, shot entirely on IMAX cameras for the first time. This one has a crazy cast starring Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Zendaya, and Anne Hathaway, as well as so many other famous people that like we could just do an hour-long podcast naming their names.
Yeah, seems like that. And I'm getting in preparation for it. I'm even reading the Iliad, which is not not the Odyssey. That's a whole different book. But I'm also reading, and it's a junker. It's like a big one.
Just catching up on your Homer.
Yeah, a bit of Homer. And I mean, you can't do with the yellow one. You'll watch, the
exactly.
OG.
Spider-Man Brand New Day, a fourth installment of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, hits theaters on July 31st. This one is going to be the first in the trilogy, directed by Destin Daniel Cretton of Shang-Chi. Interesting to see how they decide to pick up the pieces after No Way Home kind of blew up this part of the universe. Mm-hmm. And Sadie Sink is also joining the cast of this one. Later in the year, we're in November 26th, we're getting Greta Gerwig's Narnia movie, which is based on the first book in the series chronologically, The Magician's Nephew. It's going to be Gerwig's first post-Barbie film and will play exclusively in IMAX theaters before making the jump to Netflix. We're getting another Hunger Games prequel. This one is called Sunrise on the Reaping. It's going to be Catching Fire director Francis Lawrence bringing us back into the world of the Hunger Games with several exciting cast members as well. I'm most excited to see Jesse Plemons in this one.
Zach, I do have an answer for you now what my most anticipated movie was.
Oh, yeah?
was Catching Fire.
Oh, there we go.
Back in the day,
bringing it full circle.
I was a huge fan of Hunger Games. That was my entry to just reading way more, and I read through all of those books really quickly, and I was right at that age where I was excited, so I couldn't wait for Catching Fire.
So I bet you'll be excited for Sunrise on the Reaping, but are you more excited?
I've aged out of it. But
oh no!
But I'm looking forward to it. I didn't like that last the one with the songbirds and snakes. And,
the Rachel Zegler, Tom Blythe one was just okay, but maybe this will be better with Francis Lawrence at the helm. Speaking of directors returning to franchises that made them famous, Avengers Doomsday, co-directed by the Russo brothers, we're getting another Avengers movie with all of your favorite superheroes. Can the Russo brothers return the MCU to its glory days? They've got a bunch of teaser trailers out right now. They're promising some X-Men. They're promising some other ones as well. We'll be curious to see how Kevin Feige shifts in that one. And then finally, the last big blockbuster I'm excited for in 2026, Dune Messiah, the part 3 to Denis Villeneuve's Dune trilogy. How is he intending to wrap up the story of Paul Atreides? Of the big blockbusters coming to theaters in 2026, Ewan, which one are you most anticipating?
Well, I grabbed the wrong book because I do have Dune Messiah, but I've got through 100 pages of this, but finally, now the third time's the charm of me actually reading the book series as well.
Nice.
That's my most anticipated of this year. I feel like if I'm being honest with myself, that's probably what I'm looking forward to the most. And what else is there? I mean, Disclosure Day, just whatever Spielberg cooks up, I'm ready for it. The Odyssey, we got the 3 big guys who got new movies out. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's probably. I mean, I'm also looking forward to Narnia. Honestly, I feel like from the selection of blockbusters, there's nothing that is completely turning me off from this year, which is to me quite promising because I'm looking at this and not that it's the most interesting thing to talk about with the box office grosses and all that, but I feel like it is. There's a potential for a really healthy box office year next year, with some great films as well, and that to me is quite exciting. A bit of an uptick, for the industry.
Yeah, I think we were in a phase, especially with the proliferation of superhero movies, where blockbusters didn't feel that creative. They didn't feel like there were a lot of original stories. And now, as the superhero dominance has started to fade a little, we're seeing a lot of these blockbuster filmmakers approaching different stories. And yeah, there still are lots of IP adaptations and book adaptations and stuff like that. But I do feel like there's a really exciting crop of blockbuster movies in a way that I'm not always this hotly anticipating them. Though for me, if there's a Christopher Nolan movie coming out, that's going to be the one that I'm gravitating towards the most.
I feel like that's going to be at the top of most people's list, but like having Villeneuve and Nolan out in the same year. Yeah. Wait, was that the same with the second? Was that the same year, Dune 2 and
No, so remember,
that wasn't, right?
Dune 2 got pushed because of the work stoppages.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And it was going to come out the same year as Oppenheimer.
And then it got pushed to like next year. Yeah. Because I was wondering, wait, did we get this before? Is it all just a cycle? Is this like...
Yeah.
It's all Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, and those guys I know are buddies, so maybe they'll be competing against each other for Best Director at the Oscars.
Yeah, shouting each other out like Tom Cruise did with like go see this in IMAX and all that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aside from the big blockbusters we mentioned, there are some other sequels and franchises coming out in the next year that are interesting. Lee Cronin, who directed the most recent Evil Dead movie, is doing a new version of The Mummy. Correct me if I'm wrong, this is not the version that Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz just signed on to recently, right?
I don't think so, no, because I feel like he's pretty... I feel like this is like him getting to do more of like what he actually wants with it, not like so IP driven. But yeah, they I guess doing the split, the DC thing of like splitting the IP with just whatever ends up working.
Yeah, we'll see which one ends up sticking, but that one is coming out on April 17th. On May 1st, we're getting The Devil Wears Prada 2, the sequel to the iconic film with Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, and Emily Blunt, as well as Stanley Tucci. This one looks a little bit more like it's directed for TV, but it's got all your favorite actors in it. So hopefully it will live up to the legacy of that first film. Speaking of sequels, we got Mortal Kombat 2. You might remember that we had a Mortal Kombat movie that came out straight to HBO Max during the pandemic, I believe, as part of that whole, like, was it Project Popcorn or whatever they did at HBO, where they started putting a bunch of movies straight onto the service. That one was sort of like just setting up things. This is the actual Mortal Kombat. There was no Mortal Kombat in Mortal Kombat 1, but now we're getting to the Mortal Kombat. Will that make this movie better? I hope so. Just recently announced, they're making another Jackass movie. It's coming out in theaters this summer. Johnny Knoxville and the gang are back, and they are doing everything they can to punish their bodies for our entertainment. Scary Movie is returning for a 6th installment. This one brings back the Wayans brothers. It's coming out the same year as a Scream sequel, so that'll be pretty interesting to have these movies coexisting at the same time. Beside the Wayans brothers, Regina Hall and Anna Faris will be in this one too. Be interesting to see them try to like dust off the parody movie chops now that we're in like an age of elevated horror and A24 auteurs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of comedy sequels, we're getting a Super Troopers 3 later this year. That one's set to release on August 7th. We're also getting Practical Magic 2. Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman are returning to this tale of multi-generational families of witches. I actually got to catch up with the first one. I've never seen Practical Magic 1.
I haven't seen it either yet.
Yeah. I have seen this franchise, Focker-in-Law, from the Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers franchise. We're getting a 4th installment here in which Ben Stiller is now in the role of the in-law. Ariana Grande and Skylar Gisondo join the cast for this edition, which will be in theaters on November 25th. And then rounding out the year in sequels, Jumanji 3, again from Jake Kasdan, brings back Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and Karen Gillan for another comedy action adventure. Ewan, of the sequels and franchise installments, what movie jumps out to you the most?
Well, that Jumanji 4 or 3 or whatever they're gonna call it poster definitely jumps out. Maybe not in a positive way. To me, what jumps out is like that Anne Hathaway is gonna have a huge year in 2026. She got like I think 5 movies coming out.
Yeah, we've mentioned Odyssey and Devil Wears Prada 2 already, which are probably going to be 2 of the biggest movies of the year. But we'll get to at least 2 more, if not more than that, on this list.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to that then. What else is there? Well, you have to give me a refresher. That's already glazed over me. Like all of this.
I mean, for me, it's gonna probably be Jackass 5 or maybe even Fokker-in-Law. Like, I know the Meet the Fockers movies don't have the best reputation, but they've made me laugh. They've charming cast, and I think it's also been a while since we got Ben Stiller like truly in leading man comedy mode. I know he did that like pretty bad straight to Hulu Nutcracker movie or whatever, but I'm ignoring that. It doesn't exist in my mind. We need a new Ben Stiller comedy out there.
I'm looking very much forward to what Lee Cronin is gonna do with The Mummy, because I feel like Evil Dead Rise was such a dark movie. It's really, really intense. There's an other Evil Dead movie that comes out this year as well, by another director who's like very brutal with his stuff. So I'm looking forward to The Mummy, probably the most out of that list here. I don't particularly care much for The Devil Wears Prada, although I love Anne Hathaway, but
not necessarily one of my classics, even if it is a classic. So we'll see on that one. There's a few animated movies on the horizon in 2026. One of them is Goat, which is about a small goat with big dreams. Stephen Curry is a producer on this one. It's about a goat playing basketball. Curious about that one. Also Hoppers, which is going to be the newest film from Pixar, a story of scientists discovering how to hop human brains into robotic animals, and it becomes a sort of story of animals and humans communicating and the human world and the animal world colliding. That one is going to be out on March 6th. The Super Mario Galaxy movie hits theaters on April 3rd, the follow-up to the massively successful first film in the franchise based on the popular video games, with a stacked voice cast as well. For some reason, Benny Safdie is playing Bowser Jr. in this one. Animal Friends, which is the new film from Peter Atencio, who has directed Keanu, amongst other movies. This one has a bunch of big names in the voice cast, with Ryan Reynolds, Jason Momoa, Aubrey Plaza, amongst others. That one will be out June 5th. Toy Story 5 hits theaters in June, on June 6th. On June 19th. It is directed by none other than Andrew Stanton, the guy who made Wall-E, Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, and of course, my beloved John Carter. This is another installment in probably the most iconic animated franchise, with Tom Hanks and Tim Allen. My guy Conan O'Brien is going to be in this one, as well as Greta Lee, so I'm excited about that. The Minions are back on July 1st with a third installment, Minions 3. Shaun the Sheep, the latest from Aardman, is back on October 30th with The Beast of Mossy Bottom, a fun sort of horror-tinged Halloween era animated or claymation comedy, I should say. The Cat in the Hat returns to theaters in November on the 6th. This is Bill Hader's first big post-Barry project, not where I anticipated seeing Bill Hader show up again next. The Dr. Seuss book is a classic. Maybe they'll be able to capture some of that energy, or maybe it'll be a little bit more like the manic Mike Myers movie that is remembered kind of ironically. And then finally, we're getting the Angry Birds movie 3 in December 23rd, just in time for Christmas. everybody's favorite animated film franchise based on a phone video game. Ewan, are any of those animated movies ones that you are excited for next year?
It's crazy. Illumination has 2 movies out this year, and I believe that the Super Mario Bros. Movie was like the best movie that Illumination has ever made, which is a 6 out of 10. But maybe they can keep on that streak and have with the Minions something unbearable that I'll try to avoid at all costs, and
I feel
have
like
a pretty good time.
I feel like of the studios with 2 animated movies coming out this year, I'll probably enjoy the 2 Pixar movies more, but I bet you those Illumination movies are going to make a lot more money.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, they probably will. I mean, Super Mario Galaxy will probably get to $1 billion again. Yeah, with Toy Story 5, the iPad is bad. Well, I don't know how much that is like an already very expected beat, but with Pixar, with that director, he can pull something out of you that I'm sure will be on the verge of tears by the end of it. I'm sure of it. I really hope that Hoppers is good. I feel like the original IP from these like bigger studios with animation where they put a ton of money into one project has just been like in an era of flopping, unfortunately, and that's just a bit disappointing for original animation. And you can sort of see that like a lot of these are pretty safe bets. And that's why I'm looking forward to something like Wildwood as well, which has been rumored or like has been talked about for a while, but I think it now has a trailer and hopefully that releases this year. Coyote versus Acme also coming out, I believe, in August or September or sometime around there. Like, yeah, something that we thought we would never get to see actually coming out. I'm looking forward to that.
Definitely. Let's talk about some of the potential awards contenders for next year. Let's start it off with Michael, which was originally slated for 2025, got pushed into 2026. Probably worth looking into some of the reasons why that movie got pushed. We don't have to talk about it here, but it is coming out on April 24th, directed by Antoine Fuqua, the man behind Training Day and lots of other iconic action comedies, or not action movies, I shouldn't say action comedies. Trying something a little bit different with telling the story of Michael Jackson, a biopic, the classic, singer biopic that tends to do well in award season. You have Jafar Jackson, Michael's nephew, playing him here, as well as actors like Coleman Domingo, Nia Long, Miles Teller in the cast. I could see so many different outcomes for this movie. I could see it being an abject disaster. I could see it being completely entertaining and watchable. I could see it getting a bunch of Oscar nominations. I could see it getting none. I could see it being one of the biggest live action movies of the year as well. At this point, I'm just really curious how this movie is going to land with the general public, and maybe a little bit nervous. One thing I'm a little less nervous for is Digger, formerly titled Judy, the new film from Alejandro González Iñárritu. This one is set for a release on October 2nd and marks Tom Cruise trying something a little bit different. He spent the last few years pretty much exclusively making Mission Impossible movies with Christopher McQuarrie, but here he's teaming up with a director who is known for making awards-friendly movies, known for making films that critics take seriously. Maybe this is a chance for Tom Cruise to score a long-awaited Oscar, or at least a nomination. Not a whole lot is known about this. They had a kind of intriguing teaser trailer set to Oh Green World by the Gorillaz, which makes me think there's some kind of like environmentalism message going on in the film. But other than seeing Tom Cruise dance around with a shovel, there's not a whole lot we can tell you about Digger. Cool poster, though. The Social Reckoning comes out a week after Digger. It comes out October 9th. This is going to be Aaron Sorkin's follow-up to maybe the best movie of the century so far, The Social Network. That film was, of course, directed by David Fincher. This one is going to be directed by Aaron Sorkin as well as written by him. And Sorkin is not necessarily the same quality director that Fincher is. This one takes a look at a more recent chapter in the Facebook saga, talking about how Facebook, how Facebook became a sort of hotbed for political activity. It centers on an expose written by Jeff Horwitz for the Wall Street Journal. Mikey Madison is going to be here. It's her first film role post Honora, which is exciting. Jeremy Allen White and Jeremy Strong are in the cast as well. Yeah, I don't know how excited I am for it, but I know I'm going to watch it.
Same.
Artificial is going to be Luca Guadagnino's next movie. This is described as a comedic drama in the world of OpenAI, following CEO Sam Altman, who will be played by Andrew Garfield. Yura Borisov, speaking of Honora alum, is in the cast here, along with Jason Schwartzman, Cooper Hoffman, Monica Barbaro, and many, many others. Ike Barinholtz is playing Elon Musk in this movie. I'm not sure what Luca's take is going to be on artificial intelligence, but I'm definitely going to watch it. We're also getting a new Pedro Almodovar film, Bitter Christmas, which feels like a extension of the sort of self-analysis and self-reflective films he's been doing more recently. Almodovar has kind of been a director who has been on the fringes of the Academy Awards. Like, it feels like they really want to embrace him and give him an Oscar or something, but maybe he hasn't released his best films in the past couple of years. Maybe this will be a chance to finally give him that kind of love. Possible Love from Lee Chang-dong is also among here. This is the latest film from the filmmaker behind Burning, which, is one of the most beloved films, I think, of the last decade. And I'll be curious to see what he's been cooking up in all those years since the last film. There's also Being Human, which is a biopic about Judy Heumann, which is going to be the follow-up to Coda from director Sean Hayter. Mark Ruffalo is also in Being Human, as well as Dylan O'Brien and Rob Delaney. Then we have Paper Tiger, which is the new film from director James Gray about two brothers who get entangled in the Russian mafia. It feels like more of a throwback for James Gray, who's been making more earnest dramas recently, but has a history with making films like The Immigrant, like Little Odessa, like The Yards. I think this one's pretty exciting. It's got Adam Driver, Miles Teller, and Scarlett Johansson in its cast. And then finally, amongst the potential awards contenders, we have a new Martin McDonagh movie, Wild Horse 9. It's set in Santiago, Chile in 1973, following a pair of CIA operatives played by Sam Rockwell and John Malkovich, who both have history working with Martin McDonagh. This one has already been doing some test screenings that have been going over pretty well. McDonagh's last film was The Banshees of Inisherin. Before that, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. A couple of films that did really well in terms of racking up Oscar and awards love. But of the films that I've mentioned here, Ewan, what are you looking forward to the most?
It's easy. Wild Horse 9. Easily most anticipated. Honestly, that could be at the very top. I feel like he hasn't missed as a director yet with literally everything he's done. So I hope that's by the end of the year in Oscar contention. I would be so surprised if it's anything other than a top 10 contender by the end of the year. That's sort of the expectations I place on this film.
Yeah, I mean, especially I think there was some muted love for Banshees of Inisherin because I think people were almost like responding to 3 Billboards getting more love than they wanted by not overpraising Banshees. But maybe time has come where Martin McDonagh now feels due again, where people can embrace him. Because I don't know, man, that's one of my favorite filmmakers. He's got such a sharp pen, and I'm really anticipating based on what I've heard about Wild Horse 9. And
I mean, when it comes to tackling these tech bros in movies with artificial and social reckoning, I'm not really confident about either of them, because I feel like for Guadagnino, similar to Yorgos Lanthimos, I wouldn't mind if they take a break for a bit, maybe take a year. And
they're so prolific at a certain point.
Yeah, they're doing so much, and Yeah, maybe it feels like with Luca, he goes up and down of what I like and what I don't like.
Right.
I did like his latest one, although I know the response to that was nowhere near, it for me even like one of my favorites, but also not for it to be in the Oscar conversation. But I mean, I'd love to be surprised. Andrew Garfield is always pleasant to have on screen.
Exactly.
So, yeah. But I mean, Possible Love. I mean, Burning is incredible. I feel like going through his back catalog as well would be a great exercise for anyone who's like looking forward to this next movie, because I feel like all of his films are definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. You know what else it is about Artificial, the Luca Guadagnino movie we were talking about? It is written by Simon Rich, he's a former SNL guy. He wrote that movie American Pickle with Seth Rogen that I really liked. Not a lot of people really liked, but he's a really sharp writer who has a lot of like satirical columns in the New Yorker and stuff, which makes me think like it will have a pretty sharp wit to it. And then you marry that with Luca's eye, and hopefully it'll be a worthwhile movie.
I like when it's the sexual tension, not when there's like the fate of the world sort of, look at these people. I feel like he's less good at that. The more simple animalistic stuff of just like desire, he really captures well. So yeah, but
he's one of our most sensual filmmakers. So
definitely,
we'll see if he imbues a little bit of that into Sam Altman's story.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some other auteurs, including Emerald Fennell, who will be back on February 13th with Wuthering Heights, her adaptation of the classic Bronte novel with Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. There's some weird stuff going on with the trailer, so I'm curious how that one's going to finally land. It seems like it's sort of like an interesting pair with Maggie Gyllenhaal's next movie, The Bride, which is also kind of a reimagining of a classic tale, The Bride of Frankenstein. Jessie Buckley might be going straight from winning an Oscar to opening this movie when it comes out on March 6th. You also have Christian Bale, Annette Bening, Peter Skarsgård, and Jake Gyllenhaal in the cast. That would be Maggie Gyllenhaal's husband and brother in the cast. Separate people. Husbands, Peter Skarsgård and Jake Gyllenhaal is the brother.
We never know these days.
Yeah. There's also The Drama, which is going to be Christopher Borgly's next film. It's coming out on April 3rd, starring Zendaya and Robert Pattinson, a couple Zendaya mentions on the pod, about a happily engaged couple put to the test when their wedding starts to fall off the rails. I really enjoy the vibe of the trailer for this one, and I really enjoy Borgly in general, so I'm really curious how actors like Pattinson and Zendaya are going to respond to his acerbic tone, the guy who previously made Dream Scenario. You were alluding to it earlier, but another exciting Anne Hathaway movie on the horizon is the latest from David Lowery, Mother Mary, in which she plays a pop star who reunites with her estranged best friend and former costume designer. This is another Michaela Cole shout on this list. And you also have Hunter Schafer, Kai Gerber, and others in the cast. But David Lowery is a really excellent filmmaker, so I'm always curious to see what he is putting his talents towards. You have The Dog Stars, which is going to be the latest film from Ridley Scott. Again, Jacob Elordi, here with Margaret Qualley and Josh Brolin and Guy Pearce, about scavengers after the pandemic has ravaged the world's population. There's a new M. Night Shyamalan film coming out with Jake Gyllenhaal and Phoebe Dinver. This one's called Remain, and it's based on a Nicholas Sparks novel, which might be a little bit of a different tone than we're used to in an M. Night Shyamalan film. Her Private Hell is going to be Nick Winding Refn's return to the big screen. It's described on Letterboxd as an edgy, hypnotic, and unhinged thriller, which is basically how you could describe every Nick Refn movie ever. You have Sophie Thatcher and Charles Melton leading this cast. The Entertainment System is Down, the new film from Robin Ostlund. I feel like we can safely assume this one will premiere at Cannes later this year. He's the king of Cannes, after all. And this one is set on a long-haul flight after the entertainment system fails and an eclectic group of international passengers are forced to face their boredom. It's led by Keanu Reeves, Kristen Dunst, Daniel Bruhl, Nicholas Braun, a bunch of other funny actors. And lastly, in this category, Werewolf, which is going to be the new film from horror auteur Robert Eggers, set in 13th century England. He reunites with Aaron Taylor Johnson, who was in Nosferatu, as well as Lily Rose Depp and Willem Dafoe and Ralph Ineson, all of Nosferatu, for another classic monster story. Ewan, of those films, which one are you looking forward to the most?
You're making it easy for me. It's always the last one that you mentioned. I'm looking forward to Werewolf. That's like right behind like the next Dune film for me. Even though, you know, it might not be like end up being my favorite film of the year, I just like the tone that you can expect from Eggers, the sort of feeling that you settle into, and looks just very exciting. To me, this is also the category that is the most homeworky for me, because I have so much to read, like the Dark Stars. You could read the novel there, like the Nicholas Sparks novel that the new M. Night movie is based on. Wuthering Heights, I'm currently listening to the audio, but not at this very moment, but almost. It's like
I'd hope not.
It's fast approaching, so I do have to like also like there's so many adaptations of that movie. I feel like that's going to play so much with how this film has previously been seen and adapted, and
yeah. She's sort of been talking in some of the press about how it's almost like her fan fiction of Wuthering Heights, which I don't. But there's part of me that's like, just do the book, the classic. But
yeah,
but also it's kind of cool. Like Emerald Fennell is gonna sort of put her spin on a story that's already been adapted plenty of times, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like there's a few red flags around The Bride, with that being pushed into this year when it originally had a release date set for last year. Reasons for that, like I feel like the trailer hasn't been like received that well, but I'm holding out hope that, you know, it's good. Like the drama, all of these movies you just mentioned, Mother Mary, her Private Hell, I think it's called, right?
Yes,
the Refn movie,
the Nick Refn film.
I feel like I've had my dose of him as a filmmaker. I don't know if I want more, if I need to lower my tolerance again before I can, you know, enjoy it again.
Yeah.
But Entertainment System is down. Like his movie that won Gun
Triangle,
the last time, the Triangle of Sadness. I don't know if you can, you know, you go from the square to the triangle, and hopefully this will align with the viewers of that festival. Maybe you can get another award. It would be crazy to do the free-peat and get free wins. But I don't know if like we can endure another satire like that. I felt like those movies probably came out at the perfect time where it wasn't real enough yet. And it was like, let's make fun of this. And like here, you need something more cathartic. But I think all of these are very exciting movies that, looking forward to a lot.
Yeah, I think this is the case with a lot of the movies in this category, where if the director is simply going to kind of do what they've been doing, it's a lot less exciting than if they're pushing themselves to somewhere new. And I'm leaving myself open to the possibilities with all of these movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, I want to spotlight a few foreign films on the horizon. You know, we often are pretty America-centric in terms of what we focus on the podcast, because it's just the films that we get presented with the most. And it's hard sometimes to put foreign films on lists like these, because you never really know with distribution when we're going to see these movies. Are they going to pop up at festivals? Whatever. But they are some high-profile movies from filmmakers we really like. And so hopefully they'll show up at some point in the next year, starting with the new film from Ryosuke Hamaguchi called All of a Sudden. This is the filmmaker who most recently made Drive My Car, one of my favorite films of a couple of years ago. And this one is about the bond between two women, a Japanese theater director and a French nurse. So it'll be interesting to see him sort of apply his style to something that's maybe a little bit more international, or at least has other elements in it. Curious about that. I'm also curious about the latest film from Cornel Mondrusco, At the Sea, which is going to be the filmmaker behind Pieces of a Woman and White God, working with Amy Adams on a film about a woman who is out of rehab after a long stint. This film was shot a little while ago, and it's been sort of bubbling up, so we'll see when it actually appears somewhere. I thought it was curious, though, that a lot of the supporting cast in this one has comedic backgrounds. Jenny Slate, Rainn Wilson, Brett Goldstein, Dan Levy, and Murray Bartlett are all listed here for At the Sea. There's also Fjord, which is going to be the next film from Christian Mungiu, who has made films like 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. A couple years ago, he made RMN. This one sees the Romanian filmmaker teaming up with Sebastian Stan, who himself is Romanian as well, and Renat Reinsve, about an immigrant Romanian family living in Norway who become part of an investigation and face the local judicial system. He always does really interesting takes on like insiders versus outsiders in a way. So I'm very curious to see what he does paired with a couple of well-known movie stars. I think probably the most famous people he's ever worked with in a film. The Furious is a movie that premiered at Toronto last year, was one of the Midnight Madness films that I think went over the best. I didn't get to catch it there, but I've heard a bunch of good things.
Kevin's, he has this at his second highest. Because he said, like, from what he's heard from TIFF, this is the next step up in action. And he's always on the pulse. Like, he always brings me the latest in, like, we have a whole section that's Spotlight World Cinema, and usually it's like older films, like a lot of Johnny To we're recently doing, but always just like the highlights that often go overlooked in the States and in Europe of like these great movies. And this seems to be like he said he's more looking forward to like this is his most anticipated film of the year. He'd rather watch this than Dune or The Odyssey. So that's high praise from him, and I'll just take that and also be excited alongside him then. Yeah,
I mean it seems like it's a pretty gnarly fun time, so I'm definitely curious to catch up with The Furious. And then you also mentioned that Kevin was interested in Hope, which is the latest from Na Hong Jin, who's the filmmaker behind The Wailing as well. Do you know anything else about this one?
Honestly, I haven't seen a single film of his. I just know that we'll be looking at all of his films on the podcast as well as we prepare for the release. We'll make sure that we like sprinkle in all of these like older films a bit more naturally. I feel like for in the hassle of all of these festivals bottling up for us to cover it, it's all at once they get released. And if these movies are about to release this year, you can sort of prepare yourself a bit more. And honestly, I'm like the log line from what I see here, the synopsis. It sounds pretty like intriguing, but it doesn't give too much away yet. So I'm excited for this. And like the poster as well that they got so far is also great.
Yeah, it's a cool action shot for sure. Mm-hmm. Definitely curious about that one. There are a pair of Koreeda films on the horizon. Look Back is about two young girls who bond over their shared passion of drawing manga. And then Sheep in the Box is about a couple in the near future taking a state-of-the-art humanoid into their home as a son. Don't know if we'll see either, both, or just one of these movies in the next year. But if the filmmaker behind films like Shoplifters and Monster is at work on new stuff, we will be very hotly anticipating it whenever it comes. I'm also really excited for Parallel Tales, which is the newest film from Asghar Farhadi. We're in the midst of Jafar Panahi being embraced an award season for the remarkable It Was Just an Accident, but Farhadi is another really well-known and beloved Iranian filmmaker behind things like Up Separation and The Salesman. So I wouldn't be surprised if Farhadi receives his own sort of year of praise off of the backs of this latest film, Parallel Tales, which is about a series of intertwined stories telling the story of the 2015 Paris attacks. Isabelle Huppert, Vincent Cassel, and Virginia Efira are all in this film. And then lastly, in my foreign films category, a little bit of a curiosity here, but the Chinese IMAX calendar revealed that Stephen Chow is back with Shaolin Women's Soccer. As a young sports-loving cinephile, Shaolin soccer was a big deal to me. So that we're getting a follow-up from the guy who made Kung Fu Hustle is really, really exciting. I have no idea when we'll see this movie, but at least Chinese audiences will get it this year. But among the foreign films that we've talked about, Ewan, are there any that jump out to you as the most exciting?
You just shocked me. I didn't have this on my radar at all, and now it's got to go onto my watch list. Just recently we've been watching more Chinese films as well, and there's so much great stuff that we're just like kind of missing out on. So I'm looking forward to this now as well. That
for
sounds
sure.
fun. I've already talked about The Furious and Hope. But yeah, At the Sea with Amy Adams, you just hope she gets another like meaty role where she gets to showcase her brilliance, because I feel like
She's overdue.
Yeah, for one that lands again all of a sudden. Honestly, this is the limited scope of what we'll already know about with international releases. They do tend to hold their, not reveal their cuts as much before they actually land a premiere at like a festival. So I believe there's probably a bunch of stuff that we don't know yet that is like going to be up there. But honestly, Koreeda might be my favorite filmmaker alive and currently living, so I'm very much looking forward to both of these films. I hope we get both. I mean, it would be great to also space them out for 2 years. But I mean, Look Back is also based on a manga that already was adapted last year.
Yeah. It was an animated film, no? That
Exactly,
people really loved that one.
And we did review that with a friend of the podcast, Connor, as well, on Quiet
Nice.
on Set. He really loved it. I really liked it as well. So I'm more interested in Sheep in the Box because it's the one story that I know nothing about yet and already know how Look Back is going to sort of play out. But Koreeda is one of the greats. So I'm very much
for sure
anticipating that, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about horror movies on the horizon for 2026. And let's start it out with Ready or Not 2, the sequel to Ready or Not, the film which will sort of expand the Hunger Games-esque elements or whatever it is, the sort of survival game that Samara Weaving gets thrown into in the first film. A pretty direct sequel from the same directors as well. So people who enjoyed that first one will be able to follow it up on March 27th. Also on March 27th, they just released a trailer for They Will Kill You, a new action horror thriller starring Zazie Beetz. As a woman who answers a help wanted ad and ends up in the midst of a satanic cult. This one's coming from Kirill Sokolov. So curious about both of those titles. Hokum coming out later in this year on May 1st. It's the new film from Damien McCarthy, who made a really cool indie horror film called Oddity a couple years back. This one is about a horror novelist who visits a remote Irish inn, and the novelist is played by Adam Scott. Very excited to catch that one. We were talking a little bit about Evil Dead earlier because of Lee Cronin, but the franchise continues under a new director, Sebastian Vanacek, with its sixth installment called Evil Dead Burn that will be out on July 24th. Then on August 14th, the Untitled David Robert Mitchell film hits. I have this one listed as Flower Vale Street, but I also saw there was a report recently that they are going to retitle it, and it won't be called Flower Vale Street. What you need to know is this is the guy who made It Follows making a movie with dinosaurs. That's what I'm excited for. And yet again, it's our girl Anne Hathaway in the leading role, as well as Ewan McGregor in this film. That will be out August 14th, as I mentioned. On September 11th, we're getting another DCU movie. This one is called Clayface. This is going to be sort of more of a horrific superhero movie. I don't know if you know much about this character. It's sort of like a B-movie actor who injects himself with a substance only to kind of become a walking piece of clay. Could be kind of a interesting take on the superhero genre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I only know it from the Harley Quinn series, which also has like the Clayface character, but there it's all comedic, so I don't know what to expect.
Yeah. Then there's a couple films that don't necessarily have dates right now, including Backrooms, which is a curiosity of sorts directed by Kane Parsons, a teenager who made viral shorts that A24 found. So he's directed this film during his summer break, starring Chiwetel Ejiofor, Renat Reinsve, Mark Duplass, and others. Really no idea which way this one's going to go, but it has the backing of A24, which hopefully promises there'll be some interesting elements there. There's also Onslaught, which is the latest film from director Adam Wingard. This one stars Adria Arjona as a mother living in a trailer park who tries to protect her loved ones from a threat that has escaped a secret military base. Adam Wingard, no stranger to doing horror action style films, from stuff like You're Next to the more recent Godzilla vs. Kong movies. But at least for me, the film I'm most anticipating that's kind of in the realm of horror is Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, the latest from director Jane Schoenbrunn of I Saw the TV Glow, which is about a queer filmmaker who is hired to direct an installment of a slasher franchise. It stars Hannah Einbender of Hacks, as well as Gillian Anderson and Patrick Fischler, some really good actors, and should hopefully be an interesting expansion to the Jane Schoenbrunn oeuvre. But of the films that I mentioned, Ewan, which one sticks out to you?
Well, I think Evil Dead Burn is one that I'm looking forward to. What is it?
You're an Evil Dead
Behrman. I like Evil Dead, and I like it when it's comedic, and I like it when it's really gruesome. It's just been a very fun franchise in how it evolves, and I feel like that's just been the case with horror as a whole, of like, you know, adapting to a variety of different things, and it has been like a very fun genre to be more of a fan of in recent years. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, even like Ready or Not too. That's I think in the last couple of years, Samara Weaving has just been trying to have fun. I don't think like the roles that she's been taken have been great, or like I feel like she can do way more. But it feels like she's just doing fun stuff, and I'm along for it.
Mm-hmm. She was also in a movie called Carolina Caroline that I saw at TIFF last year. It's kind of like a heist love story of sorts with her and Kyle Gallner, which that one also doesn't have a release date, but it would be another fun project for her in 2026 potentially.
I also have, I don't know if, I guess you didn't mention it, right? But that Zach Cregger Resident Evil movie. I'm looking forward to that.
That's a good call. I should have mentioned it. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that one with Austin Abrams, Paul Walter Hauser, just because the interviews that he's been giving about this has been like sort of, he can do his limited scope story that he wants to, and there's not a lot of restrictions placed as like producers, you know, come in and tell him you got to do this. So even though I'm not a Resident Evil, I feel like you've played the Resident Evil games, right?
I have passingly, like I'm not like a fan of the franchise or whatever. Okay. Although I have heard it, I listened to an interview with him in which he said like there is no real connection to like actual stories and stuff from the games. It's sort of his own story within the world of Resident Evil, which makes me 10 times more excited for the movie. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm curious about Clayface and Onslaught, and of course Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma.
I think they got to change that title. It's a mouthful.
It's a long one. I mean, we all going to the
World's Fair.
World's Fair, like, you know, long titles.
Yeah, Jane does love a long title.
And then I don't know if it will pop up later, but I believe the Godzilla Minus Zero might be coming out this year, or is that something that comes out next year? I don't know if that will fall into the horror category.
That would be a good call. I guess it technically is slated for 2026. I didn't have it on my list yet. So, yeah, we can throw one more onto the pile. A new Godzilla movie.
I mean, there's a ton. I think with horror, it's often also that, you know, other than maybe some festivals who focus on horror, they just sort of release every now and then in between. And then they are on VOD, and then they you know have a second live that is outside of the festival, is outside of the theater, and it's not just to me, at least a couple of years ago, it was like October, the horror month, and you get a ton of them. It feels like year round we are supplied with great horror, and I feel like it's not going to be any different this year. I mean, we already had a pretty good one with 28 Years Later, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm excited for horror. I feel like I'm saying that at the end of every segment. I'm like, yeah, I'm excited for this.
I mean, there's nothing but possibilities right now. We don't have to deal with the movies not holding up to our expectations yet.
Exactly.
There's a bunch of exciting thrillers on the horizon as well in 2026. How to Make a Killing is the new film from director John Patton Ford, whose last movie, Emily the Criminal, was a fun Sundance surprise for me personally. This one's got some trailers out there already with Glenn Powell and Margaret Qualley. It's about a guy who gets disowned by his wealthy family and then hatches a plan to kill his relatives in order to stake a claim at the inheritance. Could be a pretty interesting one there on February 27th. A little earlier than that, we're getting the new film from Gore Verbinski, Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, which premiered last year at Fantastic Fest to pretty solid reviews. It's been a little while since we got a new movie from Gore Verbinski, the man, of course, behind the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. I think, was it A Cure for Wellness in 2016, the last time we got a Gore Verbinski movie? That's way too long.
Oh, yeah. I think it might have been, yeah. That's a long time.
Yeah. Going back to more how-to titles, there's also How to Rob a Bank. This one is coming out on September 4th. It's going to be directed by David Leitch of Bullet Train, Deadpool 2, and Fall Guy fame, with Nicholas Hoult, Anna Sawai, Zoe Kravitz, John C. Reilly, and others. There is Panic Carefully, which on Letterboxd says 2027. I'm hoping it'll be this year, considering they're already in production on it. It is a paranoid thriller in the vein of Mr. Robot and Silence of the Lambs, which makes sense because it's directed by Sam Esmail, who is reuniting with Julia Roberts here, as well as Elizabeth Olsen, Eddie Redmayne, and Brian Tyree Henry. A film that has been in the can for a little while, but I'm hoping finally sees the light of day this year, is Famous, which is the new film directed by Jody Hill, who previously made the Seth Rogen mall cop comedy Observe and Report, which I feel like has been unfairly forgotten over the years. But he's been working on Righteous Gemstones for the last few years. This movie had some buzz when it first got announced because it stars Zac Efron as two characters, both a famous movie star and a regular guy who has the exact same face and wants to move to Hollywood to become famous because they share their looks. Could be a really interesting thriller, given Jody Hill is like a really subversive, weird filmmaker. I'm really excited to catch Here Comes the Flood, directed by Fernando Meirelles, who made one of my favorite movies, City of God. This seems like a little bit more mainstream movie, though. It's described as an unconventional heist movie about three people locked in a deadly game of cons and double crosses. I believe those three people are played by Denzel Washington, Robert Pattinson, and Daisy Edgar Jones, so a pretty dynamic trio in that film. There is the new Paul Greengrass movie, The Uprising, which takes place during an English peasant revolt in 1381. Again, we have Andrew Garfield starring in this film, as well as Catherine Waterston and Jamie Bell and Cosmo Jarvis. And then finally, yet another Robert Pattinson movie. This one is called Prime Time. It is directed by Lance Oppenheim, who to this point has really been a documentary director, making films like Some Kind of Heaven, the series Sperm World, the series Ren Fair. Has a really particular eye and really unique way of approaching documentary. But here he is taking on the story of How to Catch a Predator, and Robert Pattinson is going to be playing Chris Hansen. A really fascinating subject. Obviously, Predators, the documentary, came out last year. We had an interview on Intercut about it, one of my favorite documentaries of 2025. I guess it's just in the water right now. They're doing more of a narrative approach to the material, taking a look at the legacy of that show. Of the thrillers that I talked to you about, though, Ewan, which one jumps out to you?
I mean, the one you just mentioned last, Predators, to me was a really interesting documentary. So diving deeper into that subject matter is going to be very interesting. So prime time for me. As well as Here Comes the Flood. I'm honestly, I'm one of those outliers that isn't the biggest fan of City of God. So I'm very much looking forward to, because the cast is just very exciting with Robert Pattinson and Denzel Washington. I feel like similar to Samara Weaving with Daisy Edgar Jones, she hasn't had like a great role in a while, at least for me. Like that shows her full capacity. So yeah, and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love a heist movie, and I don't know if it's just because they got Denzel and Robert Pattinson to sign up for it when I know those actors could be doing basically anything else they want, but that makes me hopeful that it's a really tight script. And, if you get Denzel in the right heist movie, you end up with Inside Man. So I think there's big possibilities for that one for sure.
I mean, Famous also sounds quite intriguing. And can I mention a couple more? I got a few more on my list. I don't know if they'll pop up later for you. But.
Yeah, I mean, I got one category left, but if you got some thrillers you want to throw in there sure.
I got an action horror thriller, which kind of still ties over to the last category by Jeremy Saulnier. If that comes out this year, October.
Mm-hmm.
That was one that thriller set during Halloween.
Yeah, that was one that I wasn't sure whether or not it would come out this year, but I'm definitely excited for any new Jeremy Saulnier film. Also, this one stars Corey Michael Smith, an actor who has had a lot of great supporting roles, but will, hopefully get the right chance to lead a movie. And maybe this is the kind of film where it will break him out in a new way.
To me, like another one would be Cliffhanger, just because I really adore Lily James. I believe that's sort of an adventure, at least it says an action thriller. And I'm also interested to see what Takashi Mike does next with Bad Lieutenant Tokyo.
Oh, yeah.
Also starring Lily James. Do
we know if Cliffhanger is based on like the Sylvester Stallone Cliffhanger?
I think there was like something where they clarified that, but I've already forgotten it again.
So a couple. That's interesting. I wonder if she's just got a couple projects based on IP in the works between Bad Lieutenant and that one. Exactly. Bad Lieutenant, a really interesting pair of movies, and Takashi Miike is probably the right guy to enter into that mode. That could be a very interesting one.
And I don't know if this releases the Dev Patel film, The Peasant, but also by A24.
Right.
Is that going to come out this year? Like that's about like a shepherd in the 1300s embarks on a rage-fueled campaign against a group of mercenary knights who ransacked his community.
Yeah, sort of sounds like a mashup between Monkey Man and the Green Knight or something. But I'm definitely anticipating it. But again, it's sometimes hard with these more indie releases that don't just like plant their flag on a day years out. We're taking some guesses, some shots in the dark, and exactly. Hopefully most of these movies do actually end up coming out in the next 365 days. All right, I got one last category here, and I'm calling these my curiosities because they can kind of go any way. We don't really know. It's hard to label them sometimes, but there's just something that's piquing my curiosity about them. And the first one is one that you already mentioned before when we were talking about animation, but the long-delayed Coyote versus Acme movie is finally coming out next year. On August 28th, it's no longer just a cat tax write-off. Coyote versus Acme, which sounds like a really fun idea of the Roadrunner suing the Acme Corporation that has let him down so many times. People who've seen this movie say it's hilarious. HBO and David Zaslav tried to keep it from us, but they could not do it. They just couldn't do it. So finally, it'll come out, and hopefully people actually show up for this one and aren't just, talking about it online, that they put their money where their mouth is. We were talking about Anne Hathaway a lot on this episode. Let's do it one more time. Verity comes out on October 2nd this year. This is the latest Colleen Hoover book-to-film adaptation. This one stars Dakota Johnson, Josh Hartnett, and Anne Hathaway. I listened through the audiobook of this one just as like prep for this film. It is so smutty. I don't know if every Colleen Hoover book is this way, but man, it's basically all smut and no plot. And with people like Dakota Johnson, Anne Hathaway, and Josh Hartnett, that could make for a pretty fun time. Directed by Michael Showalter. There's also the new Jonah Hill film, Outcome, which has been finished for a little while. It is about a troubled Hollywood star who is being extorted because of a video clip from his past. Keanu Reeves plays the Hollywood star. Jonah Hill is in this one, as well as Cameron Diaz and some other recognizable names. This is an Apple Films film that I think was shot almost a full year ago, so I anticipate it'll come out this year. Speaking of films that were finished for a while, Faces of Death, the remake from Daniel Goldhaber, the guy who directed How to Blow Up a Pipeline. This film apparently was shot a little while ago, and it has a pretty fun cast with Barbie Ferreira, Daughtry Montgomery, Jermaine Fowler, Charlie XCX. Hopefully it will see the light of day this year. Apparently it's going through some final cut debates between them and A24. The Chaperones was announced last year as well. It's the new film from India Donaldson, who emerged in a big way with her Sundance film Good One in 2024. This is a movie that's going to reunite long walk buddies Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson, as well as Paul Dano, as three slacker friends who are hired to transport a troubled teen across the country. Just excited to see how India Donaldson sort of expands her filmmaking palette with this one. There's The Wrong Girls, directed by Dylan Meyer. This one stars Kristen Stewart and Alia Shawkat as two aimless young women who inadvertently gain telepathic abilities after ingesting an experimental drug. It seems like it could be like their Pineapple Express or something, partially because Seth Rogen is also involved in the cast. Then there's some more exciting films from filmmakers that I really love that are not announced for 2026 yet, but I'm really hoping they will be. Let's start it out with Tony, the upcoming film from Matt Johnson. Maybe he'll have two movies coming out next year with this and Nirvana the band, the show, the movie. This is his Anthony Bourdain biopic, starring The Holdovers' Dominic Sessa as a young Anthony Bourdain in the summer of 1976. It'll be interesting to see how Matt Johnson works in this mode, because he's not working with a lot of the people who he worked with, not just on the Nirvana films, but his last film, Blackberry. He's got a new cinematographer, Michael Bauman, who just shot One Battle After Another, involved in this one. So I'm curious to see how Matt Johnson functions in something that's maybe a little bit further out of his comfort zone. There's also potentially a new Joel Coen film on the horizon called Jack of Spades, a gothic horror mystery set in 1880s Scotland with Josh O'Connor and Frances McDormand. We haven't gotten a new Joel Coen movie since he made, which I'm having trouble finding on Letterboxd here.
It's at the top there, The Tragedy of Macbeth.
There we go.
On the side there, yeah.
Yeah, since he made The Tragedy of Macbeth, while his brother has just been churning out movies, we've been waiting for the latest from Joel Coen. And then finally, there's potentially a new Tony Gilroy movie coming out in 2026, Behemoth, with an exclamation point. This one is about a musician from a family of musicians returning to Los Angeles. He originally was going to make this movie starring Oscar Isaac, but Isaac dropped out and Pedro Pascal replaced him. I think Will Arnett also replaced somebody not too long ago. Olivia Wilde is in this one. Ava Victor of Sorry Baby, very intriguingly, is in this cast as well. Tony Gilroy obviously is the man behind Andor, which is, according to most people, the best Star Wars thing in many, many years, if not ever. Hasn't made a feature film since Duplicity in 2009. This is a really excellent writer who is behind a lot of great films, also behind Michael Clayton, which in my money is one of the best movies of the century. I'm really excited to get some more Tony Gilroy on the big screen. Of the curiosities I mentioned, though, Ewan, what jumps out to you?
Honestly, I was like, for the whole episode, I was waiting. Okay, is he missing out on some of these movies that are very near the top of my list of what I'm looking forward to? Behemoth is there, although maybe Lawrence Hart wouldn't be excited about it from Blue Moon because there's an exclamation mark at the end of it. But I'm excited for it, okay? It's Tony Gilroy. Also Jack of Spades. I'm not really sure if, a Coen brother movie could also have the same fate as like not the same way of Terrence Malick and just be pushed and pushed and pushed, but I could definitely see some of these films not released until next year. But I also really enjoyed Good One. So I'm very much looking forward to The Chaperones, and I think David Johnson is like one of the best young actors that is very selective with his roles, but then always is the best part about like any project that he's in.
100%.
That and like Wasteman, which came out, which I guess will also release this year, but premiered at TIFF last year, I believe.
Yeah.
So like another film that I'm looking forward to. Did you mention? No, you didn't mention Enemies, right? From Henry Dunham, who made
tell me about it.
It's Sparrow's Creek. That one is starring Austin Butler, Jeremy Allen White, Anna Savai, Franz Rogowski as well, about a solitary hitman's new job that catches a detective's attention, leading both to discover unexpected similarities between them.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
And I've just been told to watch the standoff at Sparrow's Creek for years now. So I definitely have to catch up with that one, and I'm very intrigued.
For sure. Anything else that I missed on my list?
I also a lot of these, with for example, like Henry Cavill, who got injured on the set of Highlander. I really don't think that we'll get the new Chad Stahelski movie in 2026. It would be very hype if we get it for the end of the year, but I feel like that end of the year is so stacked with Avengers, Doomsday, and Dune Part 3. I think a lot of stuff is going to get pushed into the next year if it's not like already on the release date schedule. I think it's going to be a very tight year when it comes to that. Jonah Rank, who did Spaceman most recently in 2024, the director behind Chernobyl, has a movie out with Barry Keoghan called Amo Saddam, which is also a adaptation of a book. It's about Saddam Hussein and execution, and like the mission, and then like a soldier talking to him, and it just sounds intriguing. I don't want to know more. I'm ready for that one. I don't know if Sean Durkin's next film, Deep Cuts, will actually come out in 2026. That one's with Drew Starkey and Kaylee Spaney, which I feel like are both another two phenomenal young actors that I'd love to see in more stuff. And Sean Durkin is an incredible filmmaker. Like the Iron Claw, like it just moves me to tears just thinking about it. It's just such a and The Nest as well.
I mean, if that one's coming out next year, that absolutely should be on this list. Deep Cuts for sure.
But again, we really don't know with a lot of these. It's like funny looking back at them all the time, like what we predict to be Oscar relevant and what's coming out and how off that is. Like apparently there's also a new Werner Herzog movies, like it's in the work called A Bucking Bastard, which I don't know, like with the Mara sisters. I don't know if that one's coming out. Probably not. We haven't even gotten Ghost Elephant, which premiered at Venice, that I can very much recommend. Hopefully that gets a release in 2026. I got Alpha Gang also on the list with from Nathan and David Zellner, with Cate Blanchett, Chris Pine, Dave Bautista, Lea Seydoux, like a big cast. But again, that's another one that, do we get it in 2026 or not? We don't really know.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm very excited for it. We'll see when we have it.
I think like I have a ton more, but again, we don't really know yet, and then we'll make false promises and get you excited. It's like, the next Intercut guaranteed it's out this year, and then it's not. So I feel like we'll have to hold back. But I feel like the expanded like list of movies that could release this year is very long and very exciting. But I think the over 101 plus movies that we mentioned just now should be more than enough to fill up your watch list for the year, right?
Exactly. At least one per week, or maybe even two per week if we get lucky with the releases. If you add these movies to your watch list, they come out 2026, they come out 2027, maybe even they come out 2028. They'll hopefully still be worth watching whenever we finally have the chance to watch them. But as you mentioned, that is more than 101 of the most anticipated movies of the next year, of 2026. Ewan, thank you so much for helping me work through all these, for throwing some more recommendations out there, and helping me just get the people excited. Where can people find more from you, and also check out your most anticipated movies of 2026?
Yes, in our most recent, not in the most recent episode, but one of our episodes, episode 238, I believe, it was of our podcast. We already are working on 241, so it's been a few weeks since we've already discussed our most. We're moving fast. We also went over our most anticipated and did a countdown of 26 movies that we're most looking forward to in 2026. So you can go check that out. And we have a weekly podcast as well where we review the latest films that interest us the most. We spotlight films from festivals that we get to see. And once they do get released again, we do love talking about movies nonstop. So much like Intercut, our episodes often run way longer than they're supposed to. Just because it's very exciting to keep talking.
It's a true Movie Sickos podcast run by Movie Sickos, so be sure to check more from Ewan out. You can also catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me across social media at Zshevich. That's ZSHEV as in Verity, ICH. And check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/multiplex show. Normally I'm joined by Arturo Zarita at LME Movies and Amanda the Jedi at Amanda the Jedi. And we all do this podcast called Intercut, which you can listen to on iTunes, Apple Podcast, whatever they call it now, Spotify, Pocket Casts. I like using Overcast. And then make sure you subscribe not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/intercutpod, where you can watch our listing faces as we run through the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of the podcast every Monday. And please like the videos, leave us a comment, consider heading over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review. Shout out to people wherever you are. We've been in a lot of film review podcast charts, doing pretty well in the US, UK, and Canada right now. So let's keep that energy going.
Get those numbers up from Switzerland as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like our Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter pages. You can support our Patreon. You can find all of those at Intercut Pod to get updates throughout the week from Arturo, from Amanda, from me, from you, and from all the guests that we feature here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, 101 upcoming movies on the wall, 101 upcoming movies.